Welcome to Three, a show about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, and part of the Tennis Channel podcast network. I'm Gill with Joel Drucker and Amy Lundy. The Indian Wells draw is out, and man, this is complicated. Two of our three are in the draw. We only expect one of our three, Rafael Nadal, to actually play the event. We will get to Novak Djokovic and the kind of situation that we're currently in. Again, recording probably 10, 20 minutes after the release of the draw. But let's start with Nadal. And we actually haven't spoken since Rafa won Acapulco, beating Daniil Medvedev handedly in the semifinal, beating Cam Norrie in the final. Joel, I thought that was Nadal from a level perspective at his very best towards the end of Acapulco.
He was looking great, Gil. He was just so sharp and so focused. And of course, he's in this whole year where now he's started the year winning a slam for the first time since 2009. And I think with Medvedev, I think when you beat someone in a really close big match, each of you knows it. And so one guy's awareness of it is even higher. And that is awareness, his sense that, hey, I know how to beat you. Oh, I didn't know quite how to beat you. So you could see, I mean, Nadal looked exceptionally confident in that match, and Medvedev did not.
Yeah, I thought that everything hinges on Rafa's forehand, right? And
Yep.
it's not just the forehand itself, because Rafa relies on the runaround forehand. So to hit his angles and to play his patterns. So a lot of it is about those little quick steps around the ball. And he looks as spry as ever. And I was watching very closely because obviously he's had this foot problem just even within recent months. And the movement to me looked just incredible. And it was almost as if this being best of three instead of best of five benefited him. And I thought that the reverse might be true, but he's now beaten Medvedev both ways, best of three and best of five. And he just looked super, super sharp against Norrie.
The only time Medvedev has beaten Nadal, it's been indoors at the ATP finals in Nadal's worst conditions, and Nadal served for that match. And the head-to-head is 5-1. So I think it's safe to say out of all of the contenders that Medvedev deals with towards the tail end of a major, generally speaking, Tsitsipas, Zverev, Djokovic, Nadal is his biggest problem from a matchup perspective. And we can maybe get to that a little bit more because they're on the same half of the draw at Indian Wells. But I think Nadal might be having a moment, Amy. You know how Federer had a moment after he won the 2017 Australian Open where he felt almost so joyful and loose on the court that it was almost like pressure wasn't a thing, and it just completely unleashed the best parts of his game.
Yeah,
Acapulco, right? Nadal kind of looked like that in Acapulco. It looked like mentally speaking, he was in as good a place as you could possibly be in.
He's in the zone, as we say. And I wrote about this actually, that the way we tend to think of aging is that, you know, you're young and then you peak and then you get old and your skills start diminishing. But what it actually is like this zigzag that happens over time, and you can be up or down in your youth, and you can be up or down in your middle youth, and you can be up and down as you get older. So he's having kind of like a second bloom right now where he's just playing very free, and all the old Rafa Nadal skills that we've seen over the years are working very well for him at this time.
It's very much what Federer was 5 years ago at the age of 35 after he won that Australian Open. And it's wonderful to see. I mean, Nadal always brings a certain joy to when he plays, but this is even more liberating. And you could definitely see it. And I think you're spot on about the 2 out of 3 sets that's making, okay, now look, I already won the marathon. I won the best of 5 matches, and this Medvedev was 9 points away from beating him. And now I got that. And let's build some momentum. Let's stay healthy. I mean, I'll be fascinated to see if Nadal plays Miami, and on to the clay.
Well, first on to either Sebastian Korda or a qualifier in round 2. Now at the Australian Open, we thought his draw was going to be one thing, and it was completely all over the place. So we're not going to get into these players, I don't think. But just to throw it out there, Casper Ruud is the highest seed opposite Nadal. You have Yannick Sinner in here. Denis Shapovalov is actually in Nadal's section within his quarter, so his eighth. Dan Evans is his closest seed, and Riley Opelka would face off against Denis Shapovalov. So Opelka or Shapovalov would be if the seeds held. Just to throw that out there, but let's talk about Korda maybe, because that's a match, and we don't know who the qualifier would be that Korda would have to play. That's a match that I think, Joel, you covered when they first played. Korda's breakthrough at the Australian Open.
Well, I believe it was Korda's breakthrough at Roland Garros when he got.
You're right. You're totally right. Yep.
The 16s, and he talked about how he had was it a cat or a dog named Rafa? He looked up, and so he's having the whole, oh, I'm playing my hero thing on his favorite surface. It's been a nice go, and I mean, Korda's great. I Korda's a little less than productive as anticipated in 21. I thought 2021 was going to be better for him, but I don't worry about him. I love his game, and I think he's a terrific player. And look, Nadal takes every opponent seriously, and that'll be fun to watch. That's a great early round match.
Well, I know that Ruud would be way down the line for Rafa, but that one I would like to see, because a lot of people are saying that Casper Ruud could contend for Roland Garros and that his game is really improving. So since this is a slower hard court, that would be a matchup that I would like to see. I'd also like to see Rafa play Opelka. I think it would be Shapo or Opelka.
Right.
I'm not as interested in seeing him play Shapo again, but you know, it. Okay.
I'd rather see him play Shapo. I want to see how Dennis might turn the page on that painful defeat in Australia.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. That's what I'd like to see. Yeah.
But I think Amy,
like the
Amy, you make a great point.
Styles. Yeah.
You make a good point about the conditions. I also am interested to see how Ruud does here. And I'm almost surprised that this hasn't been Nadal's best hard court Masters. It's been Canada. If I were to guess based on the conditions, I'd think it would be here at Indian Wells, but he's won it 3 times, hasn't made the finals since 2013. He's missed maybe 1 or 2 years in there. Hasn't played Nadal, hasn't played Federer and Djokovic great at this event. But to me, it kind of feels like Nadal's results here are due to be better than they have been in recent years based on the conditions.
I think we need to plot Rafa's arc more than any of our 3 by his health status. He's the most, it's funny, he's the least fragile as a competitor, but he's the most fragile as an operating system. And so we always need to look at kind of the state of body in a way we don't have to for the other. When they show up, they show up. But Rafa, you don't know what's been leading into it and what leads out of it, and where these tournaments fit in. And I mean, yeah, he's won it 3 times. I mean, it reminds me, this is like a mini version of how we talked about the Australian Open as Nadal's worst slam, whatever that means. You know, it's like, yeah, the Rhodes Scholar, his worst course.
I would just a little note that popped into my head that Rafa plays really well in humidity, and we saw that in Melbourne and Acapulco, and this place has 0 humidity, and it does make an impact on the way, well, not 0, but very low humidity. It does impact the way that the ball moves off the court. So you know, maybe that's a thing. But then again, he's won in Madrid, which doesn't, I don't think, have a ton of humidity and does have altitude. So he can definitely win.
That's his worst. It's his worst Roland Garros lead up, Madrid.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
But see,
it's what he's been better at Rome, Monte Carlo.
I think you got at something, Amy, that made me think of the time I saw Nadal. One of the years I saw him win at Indian Wells. But I'll talk about this humidity thing. He does well in it also because a lot of people don't. Because a lot of people suffer more. So the capacity for suffer to get back to that training so that people don't. And then in Indian Wells, nobody has to suffer that way. But where they do suffer, and this may have impact for Nadal, is maybe sometimes the thinner air and the measuring of the ball. One year, though, I saw him when he played Murray in the finals, exceptionally windy in 09. And he's a monster in the wind. He's got a perfect game for wind, the attitude, the margin, the hunker down kind of approach, which is different than, let's say, Federer in the wind.
Totally agree with that.
So, yeah.
Joel, I like the point also about health, right? You think back to 2019, he's about to play Roger Federer. He has to withdraw. You think about sometimes Nadal not being healthy in Australia, and this is right after Australia, and the calendar spot is situated in a place where, of course, he wants to be 100% for clay. So I think that that's the best explanation for why, at least since 2013, when he won it, after that, it hasn't been a great spot for him. But I think he's well positioned to change that this year. And before we go on to Djokovic, when I look at the contenders here, I'm not feeling awesome about any of them other than Nadal. Medvedev, like, is that so Medvedev, I think there's a lot going on with him. First of all, you play at Indian Wells at night. It's as slow as any clay court. It's extremely slow. So
it's even harder. It's even more difficult because you don't even have the dirt to aid your spin.
Plus, he's lacking rest, in my opinion. Plus, you don't know how this Russia Ukraine war is going to play on the minds of any Russian or Ukrainian players. You just don't know. Tsitsipas has looked like he's been struggling a little bit in recent events. And you don't have Djokovic in the fray. And Zverev has this massive, weird distraction happening with, the fact that most fans, I don't think, believe he should be playing here. Maybe I'm off on most. I don't know what it is, but some. And he hasn't looked confident at all since the Australian Open. Everybody seems a little bit down right now.
Well, and Nadal is so up. And I think one thing you mentioned, this whole generation, and we've talked about this before. I remember you brought it up a while ago, Amy, about you take a veteran player and then in comes some insurgents and they bang on the door a little bit and they get some of their early wins. They kind of pry it open. They get a win in Canada. Like, remember when Chapeau, did he beat Rafa Canada? Who do you remember when he first burst in 17? They get a win. They get a win. They get a little marker on the table. And you think, well, maybe that means, are they going to tear away? Are they going to barge in through the door? And then maybe they don't. And so then a guy like Rafa thinks, oh, all of you guys, Sinner and Opelka and Chapeau, yeah, I played you all now. I played a lot of you. I've beaten some of you. Yeah, maybe one of you got me one year, one place along the road in a Canada. But guess what? I won the Australian Open. I'm still a kahuna. You're not. Carry on, gentlemen. Oh, so and then you talk, and then you just outlined, Gill, a whole series of things that are affecting all of these folks. Yeah, that's part of it too.
But Gill, not everybody is down. I mean,
you're right.
Alcaraz, Nori's playing really well. He's defending champion. I mean, why not? So yeah, there's plenty of good competition, and who knows, maybe Novak will show up. Never know.
Good transition. I want to throw in Felix.
Felix.
He's playing great.
And Nadal is going to say, he's going to treat them all like they're great. If you ask Nadal about any of these, like if you say to him, well, Zverev has got this stuff going. Oh, he is a wonderful player. He's beaten me. Nadal will take every player as seriously.
Yeah.
If any of us showed up for the draw, he'd say the same thing. Well, this person has done enough good things to reach the stage to play me, and I've got to be ready to go.
Yeah, we do know that. All right, Novak Djokovic is on the bottom of the draw, and right now the rules in the United States, number 2 seed, bottom of the draw, but you can't enter the US if you're not vaccinated at the moment. And first ball is in 44 hours, but Djokovic has not withdrawn. So if you're Indian Wells, if the player doesn't withdraw, you have to put them in the draw. I mean, what's your read on this, Amy? What's happening? What's going on?
I became an expert in immigration law.
Good thing you did. My goodness.
but I don't want to do it again. I do not want to do it again. Here's what's curious about this, you guys. Like, if he's not in the United States at this moment, when the draw has just come out, why is he still there? Like, if I just can't imagine that he would be able to fly in at the last minute and play this big tournament. But like I said when we first talked about this, if he wants to get into the United States, or he wanted to get into the United States, he would need diplomatic help. He would need help from the Serbian embassy here in the States. Who knows? Maybe he got it.
Why hasn't he announced that again? Because of the flights. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because he learned.
He learned his lesson. Jinx, Gill. He learned his lesson. Don't put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so baffling. And then I don't know. I think also I want to look at it from a PTPA standpoint, from Novak, who's the leader of a group that wants to create as many opportunities for as many players as possible. I guess. I mean, I'm still PTPA will be one of these things. We're gonna see how that plays out. But gee, there's something about this. Like, okay, why wouldn't you just say, I'm not coming? I know I can't come for these reasons. This is where I stand.
The guy is determined. I mean, if there is any chance that he could play this tournament, he's going to just play it out to the end. Otherwise, he would withdraw.
Joel, what you're getting at is if he withdrew, another qualifier, so someone would have been given a direct entry, that would have opened up a spot for a qualifier. Plus, you have a more even draw, because the way Indian Wells works, by the way, everybody, is every seed gets a draw. So if Djokovic pulls out before his first round match now, there will be no reshuffling of the seeds. So it will be Grigor Dimitrov who would just take Djokovic's spot in the draw, because he's the highest ranked unseeded player. And now you have a quarter with Rublev Dimitrov, where every other quarter has 2 top 8 guys. So it would throw the draw off balance. But Joel, were you referring more to the fact that he took a spot of a potential qualifier?
Well, that's right. There's a potential. There's someone lower ranked there who's sees, wow, there's a job opening. There's a job opening, but this guy's still hanging on to the office with the chair and the window. And so that's what's kind of a little baffling for me. I'm not sure why Novak hasn't just said, oh, look, it's clear based on my choice. I mean, similar to what Tennis Sandgren did before Australia, where Tennis Sandgren said, this is how I feel. This is my truth. It means I'm ineligible for Australia. I'm not going.
I'm just reading here a news story from ESPN.com. His status to enter the United States is still uncertain due to being unvaccinated. I mean, it's like deja vu all over again. It's the same thing. I just can't believe that it wouldn't be clear to the tournament, or that Novak wouldn't have made it clear to people this close to the start of a major tournament. Not a slam, but the next thing down.
Well, but any tournament, Leo, any tournament at 250, a challenge. I mean, actually, in some ways, even more for a low ranked, because these. I mean, again, Novak's spoken about the need to create, more opportunities for more players, and here he's just kind of, I don't know. Well, I guess once again, we'll see. We'll know more. We'll know in 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, my sense is the play is to wait until the last minute in case guidelines change, to keep yourself open. However, what it seems to me at this point is that last minute passed by. I mean, it's last minute was over. So I think we'll feel very silly if the CDC in 2 hours says that vaccinated internationals can enter the United States now.
Sure.
Right?
And how many times did we say we'll see in 48 hours going into the Australian Open? And we didn't see, and then we unsaw, and then we saw again. And then, I mean, it's just crazy that either both the tournament organizers and Novak would risk this kind of thing again with the lack of clarity. That I find surprising.
But I don't think the tournament organizers could have done anything about this. They can't
take him out of the
they
draw.
can't take him out unless he
That's right.
withdraws.
That's true. That's right. So that's right. He's entered the tournament. He hasn't said he's withdrawing. I'm sure they've contacted him to clarify.
Yeah, they said they have. They said they're in contact with him and his team.
Right. They haven't said he's. So what will be. But boy, we're just going to see. And then, of course, we've seen just on a side note that he's probably going to be able to play in France.
Yeah.
Because the laws and
yes. Yeah. Now they have put in some new policies for sure. But let's just say that wouldn't it be great if he did play? Right?
Sure.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, by the way, he's on the "We Miss You" wall on the grounds of Indian Wells. Have you guys seen that?
Yes, I've seen the "We Miss We." Yes.
You know, I put about as much stock in that as the Ben Rothenberg always likes to talk about who's on the poster. You know, he's like, ooh, this person's on the poster. The tournament wants to market this person. And what does that mean? I mean, literally, that could be like a marketing intern that made that decision to put him on the "We Miss You" wall, right?
Well,
Hopefully a paid intern. Let's hit on Marian Vida. Novak has split with Marian Vida. Before we touch on Federer and then wrap up. We have an episode that I encourage everybody to go back and watch or listen to, covering Djokovic's coaches, including Marian Vida. Every slam Novak has won has been with Vida at his side. The period that Vida was not on his team was not a good period, but I think a lot of reason to suspect that this time around will go a lot smoother than last time.
The period without, now that he's without, yeah. And I read stuff about how Goran Ivanisevic is the head coach. You know, this whole coaching staff organization in tennis is due for some more understanding or explanation. You know, there seem a lot of egos at play in this, and I don't like that. So, and a guy like Vida, I have tremendous respect for him. I've never spoken to him. He's not interviewed that much, but you just know he's been a loyal foot soldier and more in the growth of Novak and his dominance and his success. And I don't necessarily mean about credit as much as like, what is he and understanding it. I mean, I wrote an article a few months ago that says, okay, I oppose coaching, but if you're going to do it, then do it. Do it like the National Football League and trot these guys out and have biographies and have their names on their shirts and let us know who they all are extensively. But we don't know that much about what he's done with Novak. We just know he's been there, and that's great.
I know a little bit, I think, and that is that Vida was in charge of bringing together all the different elements, and that included the fitness, the data, the super coach. His personality is pretty chilled out, and he's a smoother. He smooths things over. And I think he was a calming influence on Novak. And Novak, during that period that they weren't working together, realized that he needed to bring Marian back. So therefore, it would not surprise me if, after a period of time, Marian were to come back for a third time. Wouldn't surprise me at all. That being said, we know that it had nothing to do with the vaccine because they split in November. They didn't tell everybody. And then in January, Marian gave an interview talking about how much he supported Novak going through the whole Australian Open debacle. And we didn't even know that they were split at that time. So we know that it really has nothing to do with that. And it really could have to do with the travel schedule or Vida's desire to work with another player.
This is really interesting. I like the way you described him as organizing those things. And that's an art form other than just making phone calls. That's assembling a team. It makes me think of what an account person does in an ad agency. They They don't do the research. They don't buy the media. They don't do the creative, but they kind of interact most closely with the client. And they know more about the client business than anyone to harness all these pieces. And it's not simply administrative, and it's kind of creative also. It's a real art form to itself. And to keep those egos in balance. And so therefore maybe the role of the tennis name, whether it's Vida, that he maybe subordinates his own tennis knowledge, and he was a world-class player, but then you've got like the big creative guy is the Goran, so it's a way how these teams are kind of organizing. And Vida, I'm sure he was involved in sort of managing the equipment and the schlepping and the other stuff and the practices and orchestrating things, because Goran Ivanisevic is not scheduling practices or finding practice partners. I mean, that's maybe he finds them occasionally, but I think of, you know what I mean? He's the super expert of the tennis and technique and strokes, and they have another bond.
Yes.
So it's really interesting. I think that's kind of a mega trend in tennis that I'd like to understand more in the next 10 years, is how the whole player coach dynamic works. We know a lot about it from the other sports. There's a lot of extant literature and knowledge about offensive coordinators and the coach and this, but different with tennis.
Do we know who Novak leans on for more of the mental side of things? Do we know who that is?
That could be
Vida.
Mental what? Mental is in how I feel, or mental is in how I play? Like tactics.
Both. Both, right? Game planning, or also just someone to talk to about, what I do know is they're close like family. And I think that's a big part of this at any rate. Just making the point that, while Goran is largely credited with making some brilliant technical adjustments with Novak's game, there might be other things that Vida might have been more hands-on with. But in the bigger picture, what we do know is that they alternated being with Novak, and they would basically call each other every day. And only one of them would be communicating with Novak, but both of them would be involved in all of kind of the decision-making and the strategizing and all of that. So if Ivanisevic is ready to take on a little bit more travel, I don't see that much is going to change here. And I think that's the conclusion that I would kind of come to, because it's not like there's this black hole with Vida's departure. It is very much a hole that will be filled by someone who we already know works very, very well with Novak.
I also think Novak down the road has a great opportunity to, when he ever does his autobiography, this kind of, it takes a village collaboration thing, because he's brought the team gestalt to tennis to it's kind of in the wakes of Navratilova and Lendl, about fitness, about nutrition, but all the parts and pieces that make a champion in a way that's different than Federer, Nadal. They've had their ways, but Rafa, the family, the emotions, the uncle who was a great athlete, Tony here, and that's its own neat thing. Federer, much less so, right? I mean, I don't think of Team Federer, even though there's Severin and Lubitsch, I don't think it's quite the same dynamic as the Novak intimacy. I think, right? Don't you think?
Agreed.
I don't know. It's been different things at different times. I do know that one person that he leans on a lot is Yelena, and for spiritual and talking things over and mental that you were getting at, Gill. So she's an important part of the team, but it changes. And this is a point that I made on another podcast, and that is that Novak is not averse to change. I mean, of the three, I think maybe he's the one that welcomes change and says that it's inevitable and accepts it as part of, the dynamic.
Well, he's been the insurgent. I mean, he had the beacon. He had these two titans, and along came he. So he needed to be the innovator more. It's like it reminds you of the days in television when there were 3 networks in America, and the one that was third was the one that had to innovate most to kind of crack on in. And Novak comes in where these 2 super geniuses who've got a pretty good thing going. There's Roger, he's number 1 all these years. Here's Rafa, who's winning on clay, and he's got his whole family thing. And Novak's got What's my product innovation? And I think that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting if at some point it would be possible to talk with Novak at length about that, about his team dynamic.
Roger Federer news. He went out and hit with Mirka and talked about his health, or someone, it was actually Severin, right, making the actual comment about Wimbledon, that Wimbledon is unlikely. Amy, what do you make of the latest Roger news cycle?
Actually, Roger did give an interview to a journalist at a ski competition very close to his house, the women's, I don't know if it was World Cup or something. And that he really, Wimbledon's out. It's, but again, he said, he made the comment that I'm at a point now in my rehab where I can really focus on the specifics of the comeback. So he really is trying to come back to tennis. What form that will take, who knows? But he's at a point now, he said he was on crutches for 2 months, where he's not talking about retirement.
Well, he wasn't talking, was he talking about retirement, or he was contemplating? He wasn't, I mean, others talk about retirement. He's never talked about
Right.
No, but if things went horribly and Roger could feel that his body was going to say no, maybe he would have struck a different tone.
We don't know. This is the thing. This is the whole tennis thing, and these long exiles and these tweets and these things, and it's neat and it's good that he's hitting, and we'll see. And look, and he is supremely organized. So we know he knows what he's up to, and he sees how his body feels, and he's probably trying to play some practice matches. And of course, saying that about Wimbledon, it's kind of fun. Comes off in some interview along the way, but that was not incidental. So whoa, okay, no Wimbledon, okay. And now is it going to be the U.S. Open? Is it going to be Basel, or is it going to be, okay, let's turn the page again. Let's look at 23, Laver Cup, whatever.
Some are looking at Laver Cup as a highly potential comeback, but I don't think this is based on anything other than random conjecture.
What they call in retail a soft opening, because Laver Cup is not Wimbledon.
Right.
Soft opening.
We are getting ready to follow Rafael Nadal's run through Indian Wells, and whatever the next 48 hours will have in store for the Djokovic situation, who knows? But definitely excited to get Indian Wells going, and we will have coverage during the tournament right here on 3. Remember, we're available on all podcast platforms. We greatly appreciate it if you leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you next time on the next episode of 3.